UCF's strength all year has been defense, but can the defense hold versus a strong Texas Tech offense?
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of every day. Turn us on, turn us up, we'll turn it out. I'm here with James Duncan, UCF sports commentator extraordinaire, to talk a little UCF football here on a Tuesday afternoon. On today's show, we're going to talk about the defense. They've been the strength of the team all year long. How will they do against a strong Texas Tech offense? And we're going to talk about the point spread on this game. Not a lot of hope in that point spread, James. I think it might be a little ridiculous, but again, we're going to get your thoughts as well as James's on that one, and then we'll talk about the two quarterbacks in this game and what we expect from them. Let's start at the top. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. They're our title sponsor, guys. Do us a favor, head on over to FanDuel.com, download the app today. First-time customers get up to $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Download the app today. Get in the game. The defense has been a bright spot for UCF. There were a lot of Alex Grinch detractors when he was hired by Scott Frost that said, he sucks and your defense is going to suck. And that just has not been the case here, I think, for UCF so far this year. What I see on the defensive side of the ball is I see guys developing. I see development I see stars emerging. Now they're struggling a little bit with health here at this point. You know, there were some guys, Jaden Williams being like kind of hurt all season is been a little bit of a downer, I think, for UCF. But there have been other guys who have stepped up, and I think that it has been a resounding successful first season for UCF defensively. Now, in terms of the Big 12, James, the UCF Knights, when you look at them on defense, they are the 5th best defense in the league in terms of points per game, allowing an even 20 points per game. That number inflated by some of the mismatches that they've had the last couple weeks, but I mean, they were well under 20 points for most of the season. And then when you look at yards per game, only 321 yards per game given up. That's 4th in the conference. So, I mean, they're top 5 and a lot of defensive metrics, man. 3rd in passing defense. They are a little worse for the wear here in rushing defense with 153 yards given up per game, but solid in the other 3 metrics, man. I know Texas Tech is a better team, and we don't have to sit here and pretend like they're not. This is potentially a $30 million roster that UCF is going up against here at Texas Tech. We're going to do a crossover with our guy from Texas Tech later this week. But talk to me, man, about this defense. And, you're playing for a few things here at the end. Pride is one of them. And defensive guys, they have that, man. Like, they have that thing where just every rep, man, everything they do is about the pride of winning the next play. Can that pride carry them to a performance that at least keeps UCF within striking distance in this
one? I think I think a lot of people are a little bit worried about what the injury report is going to look like, myself included.
Yeah.
Probably going to be pretty filled up with some of your usual defensive stars and starters, key names like Nigel E. Kelly, Malachi Lawrence, Braden Marshall, Jaden McDonald, guys that you're used to hearing got a tackle or got a TFL or, got a pass deflection or a breakup. Guys that have been putting up stats for you all year, you may be missing this Saturday. I think that has something to do with our next segment, with the point spread being so big. Asking the defense to hold in this game is not an impossible task, but an extremely improbable task, Mike. I genuinely do think that this defense is going to try its absolute best for the first half of this game, maybe even the first 3 quarters. But at some point, your offense needs to give your defense a rest. And that is where this defense has really been struggling. This defense has been on the field for a majority of these games that you've played in, other than probably the Cincinnati game, in which they held rolling Cincinnati to 20 points, only 3 points in the second half. This defense has shown up and shown out for you pretty much every week. There just needs to be this balance of how much you have your defense and offense on the field, Mike. And it's hard to ask your defense to hold when they're out there the entire game.
Yeah, it is really hard to ask them to hold. If you cannot sustain drives, it's tough. It's really tough. But again, we're going to talk about the quarterbacks here in our last segment, but I did want to touch on their quarterback here, Baron Morton. He's thrown for almost 2,000 yards this season. As I mentioned, when you talk about pass defense, UCF in the top 3 in pass defense in the league, allowing only 168 yards per game. You can't be bad at the things that you're supposed to be good at in this one if you want to have any prayer of a chance, which means you can't let him go wild here on you through the air. You've got to hold them through the air, and hopefully, just like last week versus Houston, you've got to come up with some picks, man. They did it. They got the pick 6. As a matter of fact, they got a bunch of picks. I mean, we had an epic game, right, from our guy, Philip Dunham. But, I would just think that if you can limit him somehow, he's 65% passing on the season. He's got a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, but he's been sacked 12 times. And if you're UCF, maybe if you can get back there on him, you can make life a little bit uncomfortable and come up with some turnovers deep in their territory that could give you a shot to win this one.
Yeah, I think that if you don't win the turnover battle here, it's pretty much a guaranteed loss. Your defense needs to come up with something fantastic. I almost want to say your defense needs to score, or special teams needs to score.
Which they did last week. They still lost.
Which they did. And special teams, defense put you in, gave you 7, and they also gave you good field position twice. And special teams also gave you a nice turnover, on the 15-yard line. So, the rest of this team really has to pick up the back of, the offense, because who knows? We'll see Wednesday. And guys, be sure to be here Wednesday at 10:30 p.m. We will have a live stream ready to go for you guys to talk about this injury report when it comes out. So be there, be square, right on here on Locked On UCF. It will be here. But guys, we don't know what this injury report is going to look like. You could have a redshirt freshman quarterback coming out and playing against a top 10 team here in London. And if that happens, the rest of your team needs to take a massive leap up in terms of what they are doing for the game. Like, they need to be just performing, firing on all cylinders.
I could not agree more. Look, that leap, they're going to have to take a massive leap to overcome this point spread here, or do they really? We'll talk about the point spread here and whether it is realistic and grounded in reality next on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at GameTime, the best place to score tickets. Download the GameTime app today. College football is obviously back because we're at the end of the season, but we're still excited. Tailgates, rivalries, energy in the stands. Just nothing like it. But actually getting tickets can feel like more than a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why we use GameTime here at Locked On UCF, the app that gives back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you get. You pull up the GameTime app, and just a couple taps, you see amazing deals, and you see panoramic seat views, so you know exactly where you're sitting. And how about your favorite college football games for as low as $25? They also have zone deals where you pick the section, GameTime picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code Locked On College for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download GameTime today. $23.5 points. That is the point spread on this one. The odds makers not giving UCF any sort of chance in this one. They pretty much said this is going to be a blowout. Don't even show up. I think his defense is better than that. I think UCF actually has a pretty good shot to cover. I would actually take UCF in the points in this one, actually. What say you, James? When you see this, obviously, I'm not calling a UCF win. I'm not living in the Lulu land. But I think 23.5 points is bait to me to get people to bet on Texas Tech. And I would take UCF in the points on this one, man. I just think this defense is better than this 23.5 point spread.
Yeah. To be honest, Mike, I don't know. I might actually have to disagree with you. It's going to depend on what we see on Wednesday for me, mostly. But right now, I would take Texas Tech on the points. They just beat they just beat BYU, number 7 in the country, BYU, by 22. They beat Kansas State by 23, Oklahoma by 42 in a shutout, Kansas by almost 30, Houston by 24, Utah by 24. I mean, they've been right around that marker in almost every game that they played, no matter what team they've been playing against. You want to call out some marquee, margin of victories. Talk about winning Oklahoma State 42-0. I know Oklahoma State is bad, but they are a Power 5 football team. Utah was ranked at the time. They beat them by 24. Oregon State with a nearly 30-plus point win. You're seeing consistent 20 to 30 point wins out of this team. They're not really someone to pull off the gas, Mike. And I think it's going to be all about whether or not you're able to score a touchdown in this game. I'd be surprised. I want to know what the odds are of UCF getting 7 in this game.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not
James,
really
you're depressing me here, man.
I'm not necessarily down and out on this team, but it is. I don't know if you've looked at some of these players. Number 10, I believe his name is Jacob Rodriguez. Texas Tech fans, I'm sorry if that's not correct. He has had a phenomenal season at linebacker for Texas Tech. The kid is an animal. If he is pressuring you or he is lurking in the passing lanes, you got to not feel good. The only game that they have lost this season was against Arizona State. They lost by 2 points, I believe. And it was when Arizona State had Sam Leavitt and Texas Tech was without Baron Morton. They were playing with Will Hammond, their backup, who only had 160 so odd passing yards that game, while Sam Leavitt threw for 350 plus. You're looking at their typical script. They are destroying teams through and through. I would love to see UCF cover. Hell, I'd love to see UCF go out there and win it. Do I think it's realistic? I can't say that I do think it's realistic. Has UCF done crazier things? 100% absolutely. Yep. Crazier things have happened.
Is this potentially a trap game? I know their last game is West Virginia, but are you looking past these last 2 games of your Texas Tech maybe and you catch them slipping?
You might. I mean, you could. I don't think you're catching them slipping and pulling out a win. I think you might catch them slipping and get beat by 14. But I mean, I don't know.
I'm not all right, fair enough.
I'm not necessarily super high on us covering, but I think it's going to be very close to that line, Mike.
Let me take you back. I want to jump in the way back college football time machine. I want to go back all the way to I think it was 2007, right? In that game, I want to say it was LSU and Ohio State in the national title. LSU was the first 2-loss national title champion in the BCS era. And the only, by the way. Going into the final week, Missouri and West Virginia were actually 1 and 2 in the country. And those teams blew it down the stretch. It was actually impressive. All they had to do was win games that they should have won, and they all flopped either in their title game or their last game of the season. And that's how we got Ohio State versus LSU in the national title game. But 2 very unconventional teams in terms of picks before the season to make the national title game. They had a shot. They blew it. The Big 12 got one team into this playoff last year, and it was the conference champion. So if you're Texas Tech, you've won every game but Arizona State on your schedule. You are a one-loss team, and you close out at UCF. I'm sorry, versus UCF at home and at West Virginia. Two of the worst teams by record in the conference. And you're going to be favored by a large margin to win both those games, and they should be an absolute lock for the college football playoff. Should be. However, weird things happen in college football, and I'm saying it's going to happen in this game. But right now, both Texas Tech and BYU are still pretty poised to make this college football playoff. This could be the year that you do get two teams in, but there is zero margin for error, because I think that if one of them slips up between now and the end of the season, it's over. And UCF has to play both these teams at the top, both BYU and Texas Tech. Sometimes with the expectation, I mean, again, this will be a referendum on the coach's ability to be able to get his players to focus and not look past an opponent that they should absolutely crush. Again, I believe the point spread says the right things about who should be favored in this game, but I am not convinced that it's going to be the blowout that everybody thinks it is. So sometimes when you do things that people don't expect, you catch them off guard. I wonder if Scott Frost has something in his bag for this game that's not on tape. And he whips it out for this game, and it's like, wait, what? Again, I don't make a secret that I cover two teams here, but after Auburn and Vanderbilt played, I listened to their coach, and both coaches off that game was not what people thought it was going to be. It was high scoring. It went to overtime, and both coaches said, "Hey, man, Auburn did a bunch of stuff that we hadn't seen all year," but DJ Durkin said, "Hey, they did a bunch of stuff that we haven't seen all year as well, too," which is why we were struggling to adjust. Sometimes coaches save some things. I just wonder if maybe if Davi starts and you change the whole thing. Changing the signal caller means maybe sometimes changing your approach. Could we see that in this game and maybe see them surprise people offensively?
Yeah, Steve Cooper in his press conference today said multiple times that when Davi comes in, the playbook changes, and each QB has a different skill set. You've seen coaches say no matter what QB is in, we're gonna call our plays. We play the way that we play, and I don't necessarily think that's the case for UCF. Like I said, and like we've said kind of previously on the show, I would not be surprised to not see Ja'Cory Brown rest of season. I would not be surprised to not see Cam Fancher rest of season. Both of them have played less than 4 games. It is very likely that those guys do not play any more games this season. But Davi and Taven, those are your options right now. And with the way that Davi, granted, he threw one ball at the end of that game. He had one drive, he threw one ball, and it was a pick. You can't put your rookie quarterback, your freshman quarterback in that scenario, but that was the situation he was in. The ball was late. It was a good route, but it is what it is. Do you, and Mike, I want to know your opinion about this, because, I see we have QB duel as our last, segment, but I think there's a QB duel in-house right now. And you're in your last 3 games of the season, and you're having a freaking QB battle still. We said that the QB battle was between Ja'Cory and Taven and Fancher to begin the season. Now Fancher and Ja'Cory no longer in the mix. You've got Davi and Taven. In this QB battle, it completely changes the offense, Mike. I want to know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, look, I do think I agree with you. I think it does change it. And look, when you have a young, talented freshman that has maybe a little bit of a different skill set and then does some things, it causes you to reach for parts of your playbook that maybe you haven't needed because it didn't fit the skill set of the guy who you picked to do the job. I think this playbook is bigger than what we've seen so far this season, and the talent limits the play calling to some extent. But if you prepare him as a starter this week, I just wonder if you could not expand some of those things. They obviously felt comfortable at the end of the game, letting him throw a pass to potentially win it, and it was there. And if you pulled the trigger earlier, right? Like, do you go back to the tape and just try to get those things corrected and say, look, man, we're going to run our offense here, and you're going to get a chance to audition for the job, kind of the same way Dylan Risk did last year, midseason, where nobody got hurt, and we were on the fourth string quarterback, but he got an opportunity, and he played well in the space game. It kind of went downhill after that, but it's different when they are game planning and preparing for you, right? And we're going to get to our last segment, and we'll talk about that game planning and preparing and which QB is likely to come out on top, James, next on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game and want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score to fourth quarter comebacks. You can even combine your bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps everything exciting. It's my favorite thing to do. Right now, FanDuel customers can get up to $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com, sign up, download the app, and get in the game today, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Davy Belfort or Taven Jackson. We'll see. We'll see when the injury report comes out tomorrow. If you don't know, James and I go live every single Wednesday night to talk about who is on that injury report. So we'll bring you guys that segment as soon as that report comes out. So it comes out at 10. We're live at 10:30 Eastern talking about it. You don't want to miss that segment here. But it could be Belfort versus Morton here. A lot of experience versus almost no experience. And sometimes the element of surprise belongs to the guy who there is no tape on. And sitting here and claiming that we can know what to expect is not accurate. You never know what to expect here. So I thought Belfort showed us a lot with his legs. I think that, I think he showed us some flashes of some things that make him a potentially very special athlete under this coach. But make no mistake, Texas Tech has the upper hand here. They've got the upper hand here. This guy is going to throw for over 20 touchdowns this season. He hasn't thrown a bunch of picks, but he has been sacked 12 times. So, again, if they can get to him, you can maybe neutralize a little bit of their advantage there at quarterback. The key about good offenses is keeping them off the field with your offense. So it's going to be about Belfort's ability or inability to be able to keep UCF on the field on third downs, James, and keep drives alive so that you limit offensive opportunities for Texas Tech and Morton here. Last week versus BYU converted only 3 of their 14 third downs. A recipe for absolute disaster versus a team like Texas Tech. If you're UCF, you can't do that. I would say that you have to be north of 50% on third down conversions, or it's going to be ugly fast. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it here. So the advantage goes to Texas Tech here. But also, I think there's a hidden element with Belfort where I just don't know that we know what to expect from the coaching staff from a play calling standpoint or from Belfort from a performance standpoint. Now, if he looks like a freshman, if he looks like a frosh, okay, great. I mean, that's the easy thing to say here. But
yeah,
also, man, he could add some wrinkles here that make this interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we have any, we have a ton of people from UCF here watching us, and I don't know if anybody remembers the 2022 space game versus Temple when you had a young Thomas Castellanos come in the game, and it felt like every play the kid was touching the ball, he was running 50, 60 yards. I think that's something that you could have here in Davi Belfort, kind of like a lightning in a bottle kind of situation. Once again, I think he's a quarterback that, probably at this point in his career and his development lacks, a complete balanced game. I think that also has something to do with the fact that, we heard from Scott today that he's only had about 100, reps with the ones, which is not a lot in terms of, quarterback reps when you're especially starting the year as the 4. It's tough to trust a guy like that to go into Lubbock and like really put it on for you. But something that Steve Cooper also talked about today was having the scramble drill be a legitimate play for you. I mean, if things break down, I'd rather have a guy back there that is someone that's going to use their legs and get out versus someone that might panic and throw you a bad ball and get intercepted, or panic and take a sack. I'd rather have the more athletic guy when you're going against a really good pass rush. And that's what you're about to play with Texas Tech. They have one of the best defensive lines in the country. I'm not going to talk specific numbers because I've been on the other side of it, but what Texas Tech spent on their defensive line is probably around what we spent on our entire lineup this year. And that is not a joke. That is a real comparison, that actually maybe even a little bit more. So I think when you're going into this game in Lubbock, you'd probably rather have the guy that's more fresh, that is more athletic, that is faster, even though he's got less experience, because either way, you're probably looking at this game and writing it off as a loss. You might as well look at a guy that's going to give you a boom or bust performance versus a guy that's just been consistently declining over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, look, it's going to be interesting to see what direction they go. Before we get out of here, if Taven's healthy, is there any chance you still give Belfort a look here?
Yeah. Yeah, I think if Taven's healthy, and honestly, I don't really see that being the case. He's been dealing with multiple nagging injuries, whether it's hamstring. I heard there was a lower left leg injury. I heard that there was, he had the separated shoulder. He got knocked a couple pretty hard a couple times, and might have potentially been on concussion protocol. Like, this is the guy that's gotten banged up during the season. Cam has still not come out of Cam has still not worn pads these past couple of games. Jacuri is a guy that has been kind of their emergency break glass in case of emergency guy. I think even if Taven's healthy, I still think there's a 50-50 shot they go Davi.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see here. There's some decisions to make for Scott Frost. Once this injury report comes out, all will be revealed here on Locked On UCF. Myself, James Duncan, will be here with you guys right after it is released to talk about it. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. James, I want to thank you for joining me on today's show. This has been another great edition of Locked On UCF. Guys, hit the comments after the video and do us a favor. Let us know what you think. What about this point spread? Is it ridiculous? Are you taking UCF in the points, or maybe you're betting on Texas Tech? We want to hear from you. And which quarterback is likely to perform better?
Mike, guys, we have to celebrate it. 1.2K subscribers. We almost forgot. We almost forgot to say it, Mike. We have reached 1.2 thousand subscribers here on YouTube. We appreciate you guys here on YouTube, constantly tapping in and watching the lives, watching the videos, commenting down below. Guys, we see you when you comment every single week, and we want to hear your thoughts. We love hearing from you guys here on YouTube. We are also on podcasts pretty much everywhere. Check us out on Spotify. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, I believe, as well. But guys, we appreciate y'all being here. But Mike, I had to tell the people.
Oh, yeah, I almost forgot. Look, and we want a big shout to Andrew Gluchov as well, too. He's been a huge part of our growth here at the channel. 1,200 subscribers is no small feat. If you've ever grown a YouTube channel, you know it is a grind to that first 1,000. But you know what? We're not stopping there. We want to reach heights not seen by a UCF podcast. So we're on the chase for 2,000 next. Tell a friend, subscribe. Make sure you turn on automatic downloads on your favorite podcast platform. And do us a favor, check us out here tomorrow live on Locked On UCF.